Welcome to the Green Living Gurus. I am Therese Fortin Barnes, your head guru, and also known as T. And today on the show, we are talking about reverse osmosis and what it is, because there's so many questions surrounding reverse osmosis. I get the questions asked to me all the time. Why reverse osmosis? So today we are going to talk about it and we're going to get all of our questions answered. And I wanted to bring somebody on that knows all about the subject matter. And his name is Drew Orton, not to be confused with Therese Fortin. They took out the F. We're Fortin, he's an Orton. Anyway, so Drew is with WaterCure. His family has owned WaterCure since 1986, Drew. Is that right?
Yeah, some dad started it. Yeah.
And before founding WaterCure, Drew's father, Lance, who I had the pleasure of speaking with a few months ago, he was very informative in telling me all about his past, which I thought was very interesting because he was a merchant marine. So he was an expert on the water. And Lance served as a naval captain on many notable merchant ships, and he became a respected speaker and mentor on topics such as water chemistry, contamination, and purification. So Lance's son Drew also has water in his genes. He began helping out his father's company at age 14. And after he served in the United States Navy, Drew joined WaterCure full-time, helping his family grow the business and flourish. And currently, Drew serves as CEO and simultaneously works as a firefighter and a paramedic for a local Western New York municipality. And so pure clean water is more than just a job to him, and it's a way of life for Drew and his family, including his wife Anne and their 4 children. So the family purifies water for all of their needs, from drinking water to irrigation to their organic garden when they have time to garden. So whether Drew is working with one of his renowned customers, such as the American Cancer Society, or a local family that wants to make sure their well water is safe, Drew relates on both a professional and personal level. Don't know what that noise was. So WaterCure has grown over the last 30 years, offering all types of water purification systems. And all the while, Lance and Drew have kept the company ship on course, with a focus on the community and family. So WaterCure donates frequently through their church, community fundraisers, to ensure the people who need the water, clean water the most, have access to it. So your water tastes funny, looks contaminated, or has an unappealing color, may it? But you do not know what type of water filtration system you need. So today we're going to talk about reverse osmosis, which I'm a big supporter of. And there's a lot of confusion with it, and I get asked all the time. So when you treat your water with a reverse osmosis filter, and Drew, you'll be picking up here any minute, everything is removed from the water except the water. So with reverse osmosis, you get water in its purest form. Welcome, Drew.
Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate you having us on, and I appreciate all the people that you help. It means a lot.
Yeah, one by one, city by city, we're going to get people to realize our drinking water is contaminated, period. So we're here to tell people there's choices and there's alternatives. Absolutely. And besides just drinking bottled water, which sometimes is not so healthy either. But let's start with, what is reverse osmosis?
Reverse osmosis. I'll kind of backtrack just a little bit and just kind of there's 3 different types of filtration, really, or purification that you can do. One is mechanical filtration. The other would be ionic filtration, and then absorption. Okay. Mechanical is what reverse osmosis falls under. Mechanical meaning that, like a screen that you have in your window would keep bugs out. Okay. Mechanically keeping bugs out. That's what mechanical filtration is. Reverse osmosis, and like you said, in its simplest terms, is that it allows the water to pass through a semi-permeable membrane, and when it's being with pressure, as it's being pushed through, any impurities are left behind on one side of the membrane while the pure H2O is being pushed through the very, very tiny pores down to 0.001 microns. So literally it's one molecule at a time pushing through the semi-permeable membrane, and the pure water is on the other side and then goes into a holding tank. And then from there, you drink it from that holding tank. So that's the easy answer. There is a lot of other science that we can get into also too with reverse osmosis, but in the simplest terms, it's mechanical filtration to 0.001 microns. And that's really, really tiny. That's like taking a piece of hair and slicing it in 7 slices, taking one of those 7 slices and slicing it in 7 slices, taking one of those slices and slicing it in 7 slices. So bacteria, virus, any chemicals left behind, okay, are removed from the water. Some of the things with reverse osmosis, so that people, because they'll say, you know, reverse osmosis in itself is just one part of usually a reverse osmosis system, okay, when we're talking reverse osmosis. In an industrial application, usually it's just reverse osmosis by itself, but in a application where we're using it for residential, for life source water, for drinking and for cooking, that is a reverse osmosis system. So it's usually a semi-permeable membrane with other types of mechanical filtration also too, or absorption also too. So that's the simple terms.
So that's the simple terms. And then what about just a regular, somebody has a filtered system they bought at Home Depot and installed it under their sink?
Okay. So some of those will be like mechanical filtration also.
Okay.
So let's say it's carbon. The most common would be like a carbon filtration system. Let's say a fridge filter. A fridge filter is going to be absorption and mechanical filtration, because the carbon itself is going to be rated for, you know, if you read on the, it'll say how many microns it's rated for, what it will filter down to, if it's 5 microns or 2 microns or 3 microns. That's the mechanical portion. But then the carbon in it itself, depending on the grades of carbon, and there's different kinds of carbon. We have catalytic carbon, we have coconut shell carbon, we have activated carbon, and there's lots of other different types of carbon also too. And each one of those are better for certain types of things depending on what you're trying to get out. That will be absorption. So that's just like when somebody has an overdose and they would have them drink a charcoal solution, right? To be able to get that stuff out of their tummy, out of their stomach, okay? That's because it's going to absorb, okay, whatever's going in there. So that's why they would use a powdered charcoal mixture, which is really kind of gross, you know, if you've ever had to drink it, you know, or if you've ever seen somebody drink it, it doesn't look pretty. It looks just like what it sounds. It's charcoal that's ground up that you're drinking. That's how a carbon filter works also too for those. And the rating of what they will actually take out is based on how much carbon there is and the volume of water actually going through it. So you can kind of read all those things on the filters, you know, but I hope that answered that question. Yeah.
No, it absolutely does, because people wonder all the time, what should I get? What should I get? What do you think about this? And I know reverse osmosis is what I'm getting. And you're coming here on Monday. I mean, I have a different system and I'm replacing it because I don't have reverse osmosis, and I've done my homework and I've done my research with you as well. So it's semi-new to me too. I just know for many years, I wanted reverse osmosis because I did my research, and it gets out a lot more chemicals than the other systems do, which takes me to my next question. Mm-hmm. What are the chemicals that it does take out?
So what I like to go, when people ask about the chemicals, I usually try to go through like the top, you know, a few that people usually are top of mind that people are thinking when they're starting to research. Number one, chlorine, right? Usually they want the chlorine out of the water, right? So we're chlorine, because it is a carcinogen, it's a cancer causing agent. And that's if you're on municipal water, okay, not well water, but if you're on municipal water, the health department, they have to chlorinate the water, right? They have to put it, because they have to make sure that it's clear and bacteria free. And the way they do that is with chlorination. It's the least expensive way they're able to do it in mass for people. Okay. So chlorination itself isn't necessarily, quote, a bad thing, but we do definitely want to filter that out to make sure that it's taking all the chlorine out so that we're not ingesting it. You know what I'm saying? So before we actually get it. And that's the purpose of chlorine. Repeat the question again. I just want to make sure I got
the chemicals. So what other chemicals? So you have chlorine, what that reverse osmosis removes from the water.
Okay. Yep. So chlorine would be number one. That's the most common. And then the second thing people usually are asking about is lead, right? Because it's just top of mind, so it's going to filter out lead also too. It's also going to filter out if you've ever seen the movie Aaron Brockovich, chromium 6. Okay. That's a very, and if you are in Western New York where we are, and the municipal water is being drawn from one of the Great Lakes, like Lake Erie, there is chromium 6 in the water. It's a fact. You can go online and find it. You can read it in the water reports. You can see the EPA says it. That's there. Reverse osmosis takes that out. A lot of some carbon filters, like just a regular fridge filter, won't take that out. Okay, you would need to actually step up to a reverse osmosis to do that. Some of the other things that people are concerned about, a big one really also too, and there's is pharmaceuticals right now.
Right.
We actually have a lot of the environmental groups who are very concerned because a lot of the fish, the sex is changing in some of the fish. And some of the fish, the way it was described to me when there was a gentleman there and I was asking questions about it because of all of the pharmaceuticals going into the water, that some of the fish, the game fish, the fish that are normally chasing, are kind of drugged down because of all the different types of drugs. Are not as aggressive as they used to be. So we have fish that are kind of being sedated, and then we have fish that their sex is changing because of all the hormone drugs that are in the Great Lakes. And that's not, and people think, oh, is it people flushing it down the toilet like they used to tell us to do? Yes, probably from some of that, but also too, oops, sorry, just see here.
That's okay. I thought that was my noise at first. I thought my battery was going.
Nope, I'm just trying to figure out how to get you back here.
I have you.
Okay. Well, I don't have you for a second here. I'm sorry. Give me 1 second. I'm not sure what happened.
So if you're with us right now, still, we are talking about the chemicals that reverse osmosis will remove from your water. And we talked about pharmaceuticals and chlorine and lead. So those are.
There we go. Okay, sorry.
Actually, that's okay. I was just saying, I don't even think we did talk about lead yet. So it does remove lead from the water as well, right?
Yeah, yep. It removes lead from the water also too. And then, so just to finish up with pharmaceuticals, if people know, some people don't understand that, pharmaceuticals have half-life. So not all of the drug, if you get something that's 10 milligrams, not all 10 milligrams necessarily is being absorbed into your body. Your body might be absorbing 5, 8, whatever. And then the rest of it will go out in our waste, and then goes down the toilet. Now people think, well, doesn't it go through the wastewater treatment plant, right? Doesn't that take that stuff out? No, the wastewater treatment plant, their job is to kill bacteria and virus, basically. Also too, they use hyperchlorination and a lot of other things supposed to clean that stuff up and then send it to wherever it's going. Around here, it goes back into Lake Erie, okay? The other reason is also too, is that in this area, all along the Great Lakes, not just Lake Erie, and on the Canadian side and on the US side, we have antiquated wastewater systems. So what ends up happening is during big rainstorms, when people have flooding, the wastewater systems are overwhelmed, okay? And the wastewater systems will then go to the sewage plant and they cannot process it all at once. It's too much. So by law, they are allowed to open the gates and just let raw sewage go into the Great Lakes.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, so we are one of those weird.
Where does that enter?
That what do you mean?
Does that enter at the foot of Niagara or foot of West Ferry?
Wherever the wastewater treatment plants are, all along the Great Lakes. So not just West New York.
All over the place, right?
Yeah. So everything from Fredonia, Buffalo, Detroit, Ohio, all of the cities. So that happens. And then if you actually, in 1 year span, if all the wastewater, the raw waste that gets put into Lake Erie were to go over Niagara Falls, it would run with just raw sewage for 16 hours straight. That's documented. You can look that up. There's been a lot of environmental studies on that. And it's not necessarily, quote, the wastewater treatment plant's fault. It's just that we as a society haven't upgraded our wastewater treatment plants to handle those variances. So that wastewater then comes through our treatment plant, right? The other way, when we're trying to, for our drinking and our utility water, it comes through and they would have to do reverse osmosis for every single house. And they can't do that for water that they're going to use, that you're going to use to flush your toilet, that you're going to use to wash your car, or water your plants, utility water. So I kind of look at water treatment is the final barrier, that we use it for our drinking and for our cooking. We want to make sure our life source water is as pure as possible. So I hope that answers the biggest concerns people have. The one other one would be fluoride. Fluoride is kind of a hot topic.
Right, that is a hot topic.
It's a very touchy topic too, and I understand because nobody wants snaggle teeth, right? Nobody wants their kids to not have good teeth, and if you talk to any dentist, it depends. You have some dentists who are for, and you have some dentists who are against.
Right.
The only way to truly remove fluoride, if you want it removed from your water, is with reverse osmosis. There are some companies that do sell fluoride filters, and they usually it's an aluminum-based product, which I don't like. I'm not a proponent of, because it's aluminum, and aluminum, is everybody should hopefully know by now, is a contributing factor to Alzheimer's. So I am not a proponent of that. If I thought they would work, if I thought they were healthy, it would be great. People would love it. You know what I'm saying? Especially for a whole house. But reverse osmosis is still, as far as I'm concerned, the best way, to get fluoride out. But there is some good data behind that people can do their own research. I like people to do their own research. And then they can come to their own conclusions of what they want. I want fluoride out of my water personally, for me and my family. I believe that, if we want fluoride, we're going to get enough in our toothpaste, right?
Right.
Read the warning on the toothpaste box. If you, use more than a pea size amount of toothpaste, that's too much. That's too much. Most people use a full toothbrush, right? Okay. A pea size is considered too much. It is a neurotoxin. That's a fact. You look it up. It's a neurotoxin. Boiling your water, steaming your water actually concentrates it. Okay. And it makes it actually worse. But if you go to fluoride, there's a couple of good websites. Fluoride Action Alert is one of my favorites. Fluoride Action Alert. Okay. And they have all medical cited. It's all medical cited works. It's not somebody's opinion. You can actually go there, do your own research, and formulate your own opinion of whether you want it in there or not. Me, for my family, I want it out, just because it's worse for children than it is for adults. But the long-term studies for adults are still out there. But you can always take it out, and if you want to get fluoride treatments at the dentist, if you want to use fluoride toothpaste or fluoride rinse, you can. I just don't think that, the example I always use is kind of a goofy example, but your car, if you're going to wax the outside of your car, which I don't know if everybody else still does it anymore, but you don't use the same wax that you're going to do the outside of your car if you have leather interior on the interior. I don't want to ingest fluoride. It might be good for my teeth, but I don't know if it's necessarily good for the rest of my body.
Good point. And what is that fluoride mixing with inside your body with all the other chemicals that you are putting into your system? That's a whole nother factor as well.
Absolutely. So, yes, absolutely.
We have a toxic mixed cocktails. Drinking every day, potentially water and every other beverage or food that you're eating. On that note, same thing is glyphosate. So glyphosate is a hot topic right now, along with PFAS. Yep. So the forever chemical. Yep. Now, first with glyphosate, because I know the reverse osmosis does remove glyphosate, right? Yep. Which also is huge, because glyphosate, for anybody that doesn't know, is a pesticide, herbicide, I think it classifies as, but it's the product Roundup that has Monsanto produces, and is in the middle of thousands of lawsuits from people that have developed cancer from glyphosate. And it's still on the market because they have zillions of dollars to fight all these lawsuits and to put their people in places where the laws are not going to change right now. Hopefully they are. It looks like there's some movement. But on that note, reverse osmosis does get out glyphosate.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. And now, PFAs also too.
PFAs too?
Yes, correct. Yeah. That's why people think I harp on reverse osmosis, and not that I'm against other types of filtration, because sometimes other filtration in conjunction with reverse osmosis is really good, or reverse osmosis first and then doing something else. Right. Like if you want to increase the pH more, you want to add something back more, you can. But I always tell people, first, let's start with ultra pure water. Ultra pure water, we start with that because it takes care of everything. It takes everything out, and then go from there. Then make it high pH or whatever you want. Add the minerals back that you want into it.
So, and these forever chemicals are typically found in Teflon pans, anything that resists
Yep.
grease, or the bottom of pizza containers that actually has been,
Yep.
they just changed that law for 2022, I believe it is. So, and these are very scary chemicals. They call forever chemicals because once they get in your system, they typically are forever there, and they are neurotoxins, and they're
Absolutely.
causing havoc. I've interviewed quite a few people regarding these chemicals in different parts of the United States, and unfortunately,
And they're everywhere. I mean, there are just different areas that are hot spots near military bases, things like that,
right,
manufacturing facilities, things like that. There are hot spots, but pretty much they're almost everywhere. Yeah,
you want to avoid them as much as possible, and they are.
absolutely.
If you're going to start seeing a lot about it, and actually, where we live in Western New York, they just started measuring for PFAS, PFAS.
Yep.
And it's perfluorochlorinated,
Yeah.
right? Something like
Yes.
that. I say PFAS, it's a lot easier. So
It is a lot easier. Yes.
yeah, so hopefully they're going to start changing some of those laws as well, because too many of these chemicals are in the water, and we want to try to drink water at its purest form. So that's the stuff it's getting out. What about trace minerals? People don't want to, some water has trace minerals. Does it take out all of the good stuff, or does it leave good stuff in? How does that work?
Right. So when we say it takes everything out, it takes everything out. So yes. So, and that'll be one of the concerns that people will have with it. They're like, Drew, my doctor says, I shouldn't drink reverse osmosis water, or somebody, a friend or somebody else, because it's going to take all the trace minerals out that they want. And I'll ask them, usually ask that person, that doctor, what trace minerals you're going to be missing to see what they know. And the answer is usually always calcium, right? I'm not going to get my calcium. And then my next question is usually, have you ever heard of a woman with osteoporosis and had that their doctor has said, ma'am, you need to go home and start drinking as much water as possible to get your calcium? No. What they usually say is you need to start eating your dairy if you're into dairy, or you need to start eating dark leafy green vegetables. Okay.
Organic.
You got it. Organic, absolutely. And my favorite, and not that trace minerals aren't, not that your minerals aren't important, but the minerals that are in our water are not as bioavailable, okay, as the minerals that are come through our food sources. Nature, a second, make sure you're still there. Oh, okay, you froze. The screen froze for a second.
One of us froze for a second. Go on.
Okay. So nature, through photosynthesis, is able to take those minerals out of the ground, right, and make them into plants that are bioavailable to us, that are way more bioavailable than if we were to actually take that mineral as a rock, okay, and put it into our body won't absorb it. It can't do it. It's not as bioavailable. Right. So the way you're going to get those minerals, the way you get the bulk of your minerals, is not from your water. It's from the food that you eat. Now, can we add minerals back in? Yes, I do that also too. We do work with reverse osmosis. We have filters that will add minerals back in. They will add calcium back in. We can do that. That's not a problem. But yes, it does take your minerals out. But like I said, it's not the minerals. And to get ultra pure water, you have to take everything out. It's not selective. You can't just take one thing out.
Right.
You got to get it all out. And the same thing too is, depending where you live in the country, it depends on what trace minerals you would be getting. The water is different everywhere, right? So like I have well water customers that have iron water, right? They don't sell their iron water, have an iron deficiency, because it's not absorbable in their body. That women need to get their iron from red meat, right? Beef, not every day, right? But in from leafy vegetables and things like that. That's where you're going to get your iron, not from water. Hope that answers that question.
Yeah, that was perfect. So on that, similar to that, what about alkaline? Let's talk a little bit about alkaline water and acidic water.
Perfect. Yeah. Okay.
And how that relates to reverse osmosis.
So reverse osmosis, the membrane, okay, so the RO water by itself, yes, is going to reduce the pH a little bit, but it depends on what your starting pH of your water is. Here in Western New York, our tap water is usually about a 7.2 to 7.3 pH. 7 being neutral, anything 7 and above is good. 7.1, 7.2, that's all good. 6.9 and lower would be acidic, right? So in well water, I'll see some acidic well water naturally, and we will boost that up, and we can do that. But as far as being alkaline, reverse osmosis can be alkaline depending on what the starting water is. But like I talked about boosting the minerals, that is why sometimes it ends up being a little bit more acidic. You're taking the minerals out of the water, which the calcium acts as a buffer, okay, and will increase the pH. So when you put minerals back into the water, you're increasing the pH or potential hydrogen, which is the same thing when you use an ionizer also too. You can increase the pH that way also too. Now remember something, you can have really alkaline water that is toxic. You can have alkaline water that has terrible levels of nitrates, terrible levels of arsenic, PFAs, chromium-6. If just because it's alkaline water or just because it's high pH water doesn't mean that it's pure. So what I'll usually tell people is this: let's start, like I said, start with RO water. And then if we want to make it higher pH, if we want to make it 8.9, if you want to use a Kangen, if you want to use an ionizer, if you want to use some other method of increasing the pH, let's do that. So that way you're getting high pH water for whatever reason that you decide that that's what you want,
Right.
but at the purest level, right? And that's kind of what I like to do with people when it comes to pH or alkaline water.
All right, those are all great information. Now I'm sitting here thinking, all right, so I have 3 kids in college. I don't, but a person that's maybe listening.
I have two.
So you send them away to college, and somebody might say, well, what about a Brita filter? I mean, you want to do something, right?
Right.
You don't want to drink tap water. Do the best you possibly can, right?
Right. So my personal opinion, so the Brita is great for that, like for apartment dwellers, because it removes the chlorine. It's not going to remove much else.
Okay.
It's a CTO filter, chlorine, taste, and odor filter. It's going to taste great because they use coconut shell carbon. Some people, so it sweetens it up a little bit, but it's not going to remove everything. One of the better travel type filters are people who are renters, who can't put in a reverse osmosis. I like Berkey. If you've ever heard of a Berkey filter, a Royal Berkey.
Getting a lot of questions about Berkey.
Yeah. So I own 2 Royal Berkeys. Okay. And the reason I own Royal Berkeys is that my family, we like to camp. And when the kids were younger, we don't anymore. The girls are older. They want to go to condos now. We don't do camping. And but we would take a Berkey with us because a Berkey is travelable. It won't remove everything like reverse osmosis. It's going to be one step below reverse osmosis. It won't be able to do pharmaceuticals. It won't be able to do fluoride. It won't be able to, and they do sell a fluoride filter though for it. But like I said, it has that aluminum base in it. That's why I don't like it. But that's just my opinion. You can do your own research. But they're great for traveling, and it takes out, it'll take out bacteria, it'll take out virus and things like that. It's a ceramic filter. So it's a lot of mechanical filtration and absorption also too. I got one for my son where he's stationed down in Rio, Brazil right now. So he has one there because he couldn't get into reverse osmosis in the place that he was staying. You do the best that you can, right? Because you can't always do everything. And it's very hard to get a portable reverse osmosis that doesn't have issues where you got to have it at the kitchen sink and it leaks or whatever. And, and you're unhooking it, rehooking it up. And so I always go, Brita's great, for a CTO, it's just going to remove the chlorine though. It's not going to really remove anything else.
Wait, what's a CTO?
Chlorine, taste, and odor, sorry.
Oh, there we go, CTO. We learned something new today.
Chlorine, taste, and odor filter. So it will remove some of those things, but it's not, and it's going to taste really good, right? If you have to drink that or bottled water, I would probably go with a Brita.
Okay. So
just because I don't like the plastic of bottled water.
Right.
Water either. So
that's great information. And I know one other thing, because I talked to your dad about this, I thought this was interesting. You also can install a reverse osmosis onto a shower head.
Not
reverse, right.
For people who are renters, that's another great option also too. People who are renters, it's like a carbon-based filter. And so it'll remove the chlorine for when you're showering. That's a big factor with people that have skin conditions, psoriasis, any other dry scalp condition. If you can get the chlorine out of the water, it's great to get the hardness out of the water too, but if you can get the chlorine out of the water, remember, our skin is our largest organ, right? So through absorption, our body will absorb things, just like people have medications, patches, and things like that. You know what I'm saying? Medication patches or pain patches. They have birth control patches, I guess. And people can actually get sick from, absorption. Your skin will absorb that chlorine. You get out of a pool and you kind of smell like chlorine for a little while if there's chlorine in the water. If you can remove that, it does help a lot of people that have skin conditions and hair conditions, scalp conditions. I was going to think of the one. I can't think of the one. I know alopecia. I can't think of what it's called, which is where women sometimes start to lose hair, also too. And that's a big factor, and I can't medically say that, but when I have a lot of people who when they get a system, it makes a big difference. Big difference.
So reverse osmosis we learned about today and what it removes and maybe some other alternatives. And there's not many disadvantages of a reverse osmosis. I know some people say it uses more water. Yes, it might, but really the advantages are so much more beneficial than.
I think so. Yeah, I think so. One of the disadvantages people will talk about will be the wastewater. They'll be like, wastewater, what do you mean wastewater? So when the semi-permeable membrane, part that we talked about in the beginning, when water is pushing against that membrane and the pure water is going out on the other side, water is that are left on this side and going down the drain. So it does take 3 to 4 gallons of water to make 1 gallon of reverse osmosis water, right? So that's why we just use it for life source water. We use it for our drinking. We use it for our cooking. But like I tell people, it's not going off into space. It's environmentally friendly. It's going back into the environment. But no matter what you do with any type of filtration, if you're truly purifying or filtering the water, there is some form of waste, right? Because meaning that you're either throwing away filters, cartridge filters, that are being used, right? And some people, fridge filters, depending on what kind of refrigerator you have, they're supposed to be changed every 2 or 3 times a month, depending on what kind you have. Not a month, sorry, 2 or 3 times a year, depending on what kind you have. With us, the filters, are being replaced once a year, and it's filtering so much more water. Using it for your cooking, or using it for your animals, your pets. People use it for their plants in their house, all that kind of stuff. So the wastewater, I don't really technically look at it as an issue, because no matter what type of filtration you're doing, there is some type of waste going on. It's just whether it's environmentally friendly. Filters go into a landfill, right? Some, because if we can do reverse osmosis where the water is going back into the environment, then it's not an issue. And there are some people who actually take and reclaim that water, and we'll use a reclamation system and do other things with that water.
Just not use it for your organic garden.
No, because that's where all the chemicals.
At that point, it's all full of chemicals. So
yes. So some people would use that for like flushing, like depending in a perfect world, we would have in our homes, we would have 2 different pipings coming into our house. Water coming into our house and pipes that go just to all of our toilets and things like that, utility stuff. Right. And then we could use the wastewater for reverse osmosis to flush our toilets, right? Because that's not the problem, right? And that kind of stuff can be done, you know what I'm saying? It just depends on how much people want to spend on investing in that, you know what I'm saying?
Right. So obviously we don't live in a perfect world, but we want to live in a world that we can eliminate as many chemicals as possible from our system, from our water, number one, from our food, and from all the products that we are using, because the more that you can get out of your system, the less your toxic overload, and hopefully the less chance you have of getting sick and living a longer life. And that's what I am here for, to help people try to figure out ways to remove these chemicals from our bodies, from our homes. So at Water Cure, I'm doing a commercial for you.
Well, thank you.
Water Cure, they provide these services. So if you are interested, I will have their phone number, and you can, when you call up, use my name, say where you saw it. Who should they ask for it, Drew, if they want?
Well, I'm generally not in the office. I'm usually out doing
right,
stuff.
Not you. I wouldn't have them call you.
Yeah. They can call the office, and they can talk to Lizzie or my wife.
Great.
Ann.
Yeah,
Lizzie's
I haven't met Ann yet, but I look forward to meeting Ann.
She's right over here listening and taking notes.
Ann.
Yeah. Lizzie and Ann are over there. Ann's actually in the office, and Lizzie's just kind of taking notes right now. Yeah.
Lizzie, where are you? Come here and say hi. Let's see. And then I know who I'm talking to. Hi. So now I know Lizzie.
Yeah, absolutely. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too. It's always nice to see.
Yeah, and oh, I'm sorry. They can talk to Lizzie or Ann, and if they want a water test, we can come out and we can test their water for them. If they don't live in the area and they're interested in water testing, we can help them also too. We can mail them a sample bottle and we can send that into a lab for them if they like. And depending on what level of testing they want to do would be the cost of it. Here locally, we can do it pretty much free for everybody. But if they are mailing one in from somewhere else, we're gonna have to charge something for that.
Right. And just so everybody knows, I am actually getting a system from Water Cure. So I am working with them and referring people to them because I've done my due diligence with this company. And I feel very strongly that they provide not only a great service, but a great product. And they are in the middle of doing a few different people's homes that I've referred them to. One is in Philadelphia. There's a few here in Buffalo. We might have one somewhere else. I can't remember
Somebody did. Yeah, there was someone else that was mailed.
Ohio, maybe, whatever the case may be.
I think it was Pittsburgh, maybe. I'm not sure.
Okay. So wherever you are, don't hesitate to call them. If they can help you, they will tell you and they'll maybe refer you somewhere else. So,
and I might know a high quality water person in their area also too.
Right.
I have a network of people that I know all over the country who are really good water treatment people, and I can possibly refer them to them. Okay. If we can't help them ourselves, but sometimes we can help them ourselves too.
Wonderful. So this is such great information, Drew. I so appreciate you coming on with me and talking about this.
Absolutely.
I know. Thanks to Sue Moriel.
Yes.
She's the one that has always been. She and I talk about water all the time, and how important it is.
Yeah.
And it's probably the number one. People say, "Well, what should I do to get chemicals out of my life home?" There's two areas that besides food, that's like a whole nother topic, but water is number one. And then my second one is laundry. Whatever you're washing your clothes and sheets in that you're wearing and breathing in every day, that's number two. So let's get those cleaned out. 2 steps. And then, you'll be eliminating a lot of chemicals from your body just by those 2.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thank you so much, T.
Wonderful. Yeah, it was great to meet you. I'm looking forward to seeing you in person one of these days, and we'll be doing a lot more together.
Okay. Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you.